The silence didn't start when her mother spoke. It started the moment Emma stepped through the front door. That house, her childhood home, smelled exactly the same. Lemon polish, old fabric, a faint trace of lavender from the diffuser her mother always kept in the hallway. Time hadn't touched a single thing, but something inside her had changed forever. She stood still, her heels pressing into the same floral carpet where she once opened birthday presents and cried after middle school heartbreaks. The same spot where Lily once spilled paint and got hugged. Where Emma once got a lecture for not watching her sister closely enough. The couch was still there, upholstered in rose-patterned fabric, slightly faded and too stiff from disuse. It was never meant to be comfortable. It was meant to look good in pictures. And on that couch sat Lily, curled up with a throw pillow in her lap, fake mascara tears lining her cheeks like smudged guilt. She looked delicate, fragile, a painting of remorse. Emma knew better. Across from her stood Margaret, their mother, posture perfect, hands clenched in front of her like she was praying. But she wasn't praying, she was performing. Beside her stood Robert, their father, arms crossed, chin raised, eyes cold. He didn't speak, but the silence he cast was loud. Emma had always been the one to fill the silence, the peacemaker, the daughter who apologized first, the one who bent herself backward for family harmony. But not today. Margaret's voice cut through the stillness. "If Lily isn't invited," she said gently, almost sweetly, "then we won't be attending either. A wedding is about family, Emma. All family." The word family landed like a slap, so gentle and yet so violent. Emma didn't move, didn't speak, didn't flinch. She looked at the woman who birthed her and wondered how love could sound so much like control. She looked at the father, who used to clap for her spelling bee trophies, and wondered why that same man now stared at her like a stranger. And she looked at Lily, the girl she'd defended, driven to dance lessons, covered for, fed when she was broke. The sister who stole her fiancé and then had the audacity to cry about being excluded. Emma felt her throat burn, but not from tears, from clarity. So this is what betrayal looks like in broad daylight. It sits in floral chairs and calls itself love. She drew in a slow breath. 1, 2, and then silence swallowed the room again. But this time, it was Emma who owned it. There were always 2 daughters in the house, but only one of them was allowed to shine. Lily was the golden child, radiant, messy, untamed. She painted on walls and called it art. She dyed her hair pink in 7th grade and skipped school to find herself. When she cried, everyone stopped what they were doing. When she failed, someone else was always to blame. Emma was the background music. She got straight A's, set the table, and memorized everyone's birthdays. She was the one who got praised quietly, with a nod, a smile, maybe a good job if time allowed. Her victories were expected. Her mistakes punished twice as hard. Their roles weren't spoken aloud, but they were carved into everything. At age 9, Lily dropped Emma's science project and crushed the handmade volcano Emma had worked on for 3 weeks. Their mom looked at Emma and said, "It's just a project. Don't make your sister feel worse." At 12, Lily ran away after a fight and was found 2 hours later behind a park swing. Their parents bought her a milkshake and took her to dinner. "Just the 4 of us," they told Emma. Emma stayed home doing Lily's chores to help reduce stress. At 15, Lily failed math, and Emma stayed up all night tutoring her. Lily still failed. Emma was grounded for being selfish enough to get an A in the same class. By the time they were teenagers, the roles had solidified. Lily was the star. Emma was the gravity, keeping her from floating off into space. Even birthdays told the story. Lily's birthdays were loud balloons, themes, surprise guests. Emma's were practical sheet cake and, "You know we love you, right?" over dinner. But no matter what, Emma smiled. She didn't complain, because somewhere deep down, she believed that being the good one would someday pay off. It didn't. Being the good one only taught her how to disappear quietly. The car was a beat-up 1998 Honda Civic, faded blue, dented on the left side, and loud enough to rattle windows when it pulled into the driveway. But to 16-year-old Emma, it was freedom. She had spent months working at a local bookstore, folding flyers, babysitting neighborhood kids. Every dollar went toward that car. Her parents had agreed to help with the insurance, only if she agreed to drive Lily to her extracurriculars. Dance, drama club, guitar lessons she never stuck with. Emma didn't complain. She smiled and said, "Of course, it's for the family." That Friday night was the night everything shifted. Emma had a massive biology final the next morning, one that would affect her GPA and scholarship chances. But Lily had a party across town. She promised she'd be ready by 11. Emma waited in the car. 11:00 came, then 11:30. By midnight, she was calling Lily's phone on repeat. No answer. Finally, she drove across town, heart pounding, eyes tired. She found Lily in the backyard, laughing with a red Solo cup in hand, as if Emma's panic was an overreaction. "Relax, Em. It's just a test," Lily shrugged. Emma didn't speak on the drive home. She clenched the steering wheel with white knuckles and swallowed the scream that had nowhere to go. The next morning, her father was waiting at the table. He didn't ask how her exam went. He didn't ask why Emma's eyes were red. Instead, he dropped the keys in a drawer and said, "Lily felt embarrassed when you showed up like that. Maybe it's better if you share the car equally now. It's the family's car, after all." Emma's breath caught in her chest. She had saved for that car, worked for it, fought for it. But suddenly, because Lily felt embarrassed, Emma was punished. And just like that, her freedom was revoked. That day, Emma learned something she would never forget. In her house, love wasn't unconditional. Love came with terms. Terms like, "Don't make your sister feel bad," or "Keep the peace," or "Be the bigger person." It was never spoken out loud. But it was clear if Emma ever wanted to be loved, she had to earn it by making herself smaller so Lily could shine brighter. She met him in a senior year literature seminar. Just another Tuesday, just another seat at the back of the room. Jason. He had that kind of presence that made you lean in without realizing. The kind of voice that made poetry sound like prophecy. He quoted Faulkner, argued passionately about Hemingway. But what made Emma notice him was that he noticed her. Not Lily, not the loudest person in the room. Her. She remembered the first time he asked her a question after class, not because of what he said, but because of how he looked at her. Not past her, not through her, at her. "You said something during discussion," he'd said, "about women in Southern Gothic literature, how they're always either ghosts or witches. That stuck with me." No one had ever remembered what Emma said in class. Most people didn't even remember she was in class. But Jason did. They became study partners, then friends, then something more. Long walks between lectures, hours spent in dusty cafes arguing over books. He made her laugh. He listened. He saw through her armor. "With you," he once whispered, "I don't have to pretend to be deep. I just am." For the first time in her life, Emma felt seen. He met her parents. They liked him. Of course they did. He was charismatic, clean-cut, respectful. Even Lily said he was cute in a nerdy professor way. After graduation, they moved into a sunny, small apartment. It wasn't much, but it was theirs. On their 3rd anniversary, Jason proposed, but not with any ordinary ring. It was her grandmother Eleanor's ring, a delicate vintage piece with a soft sapphire glow. He had it restored, polished, fitted just right. A symbol, he said, of starting a better chapter. Together. In that moment, Emma thought she had everything. Not just love, but a legacy, a chance to rewrite what family meant. She didn't know. She was standing at the edge of a fairy tale, about to turn into a crime scene. It started with a phone call, Monday night, 9:14 p.m. Emma had just finished meal prepping for the week. Jason was washing dishes, humming some jazz tune he liked to butcher. And then the phone rang. Lily, of course. Her voice on the other end was laced with just enough drama to sound desperate, but not enough to sound dangerous. "I got into this huge fight with my roommates," she sighed. "They're throwing me out, Em, over utility bills. Can you believe that?" Emma's stomach tensed. She already knew where this was going. "I just need somewhere to crash, just for a week, maybe 2. Just for a week. Famous last words. Emma glanced at Jason. He gave her that neutral smile, the one that said, "I'll support whatever you decide." And of course, Emma did what she always did. She said yes, because she was the good one, the responsible one, the one who believed that family deserved second chances. Lily arrived the next evening with 2 oversized suitcases, a yoga mat, and more attitude than gratitude. She plopped down on their couch like she owned it. "You guys are lifesavers," she said, tossing her jacket on Emma's clean dining chair. "This place is so grown up, like adult. Weird." Emma smiled, tight. Jason laughed, too easily. The changes started slow. At first, it was harmless. Jason and Lily would talk over coffee when Emma left early for work. They'd binge-watch weird documentaries at night. Emma chalked it up to Lily being charismatic, needy, attention-seeking. But then there were the inside jokes. Whispers behind Emma's back when she walked into the room. Shared glances during dinner. The playlist in the apartment slowly changed songs Emma didn't know, but Lily and Jason would sing along to. Emma didn't ask questions, because asking would mean doubting, and doubting meant she didn't trust them. And if she didn't trust them, she wasn't being fair. So she smiled. She packed Lily's laundry with her own. She reminded herself that being a good sister sometimes meant being uncomfortable. She told herself what every woman raised to be selfless tells herself. "It's not a big deal. You're probably overreacting. Don't ruin the peace." She had no idea. The peace was already gone. It had just been replaced with something quieter, a betrayal in slow motion. It was supposed to be the biggest day of her career. Emma was 5 minutes away from presenting the pitch that could land her a major promotion, one she had worked toward for over a year. The team was gathered. Her boss was pacing, coffee in hand. Her palms were sweating. Her heart was racing. And then she realized something. The final version of her Q3 deck was saved on her home desktop. Her stomach dropped. No cloud backup, no email copy, nothing. She grabbed her phone. One shot, one lifeline. "Emma? Hey, emergency, can you open my laptop at home desktop folder called Q3 Presentation Final? Email it to me ASAP, please." Lily replied almost instantly. "Lily, sure thing, Em, on it." Emma exhaled. A minute later, her inbox pinged. Subject, "Tonight." Sender, Lily. Attachment, a forwarded email chain. Emma blinked. Her cursor hovered. She clicked. The email opened like a trap door. "Jason, she's staying with her parents this weekend. The apartment's ours. I'll bring wine and that Coltrane record you love. Lily, I'll wear your favorite and that smile, the one you said she never gives you." Emma's entire body went cold. She scrolled and scrolled and kept scrolling. 6 months of emails, time-stamped confessions, plans made behind her back, meetups after work, mornings when she thought Jason was at the gym, nights when she kissed him goodbye only for him to return to her bed with her sister in it. "She's sweet," one message read, "but predictable. You're wild. You're the color in my life." "She's safe," Lily replied, "but I'm what wakes you up." Emma didn't cry. She didn't speak. She just stared at the screen. 3 minutes. That's how long it took for her life to unravel. Behind her, someone called her name. It was her boss. "Emma, we're ready for you in the boardroom." She stood. She walked. She presented. And she had no idea how. All she knew was that the woman standing in front of the projector screen talking about strategy and growth forecasts wasn't her anymore. Emma didn't drive home. She floated. Not in some dreamlike poetic sense. But in that hollow, dissociated way when your body moves and your mind is miles behind, still staring at a glowing inbox, still stuck in a moment that changed everything. The apartment was quiet, too quiet. Jason was on the couch, scrolling through his phone, one leg lazily slung over the armrest. He looked up and smiled like nothing had changed. "Hey, babe, how'd the big pitch go? Did you kill it?" Emma didn't speak. She didn't take off her shoes. She didn't drop her keys. She walked across the hardwood floor, heels echoing like warning shots, and held out her phone. The screen was still lit with the email. Jason glanced down. Confusion, recognition, panic, collapse. His face twisted through them all. "Emma, I can explain." Her voice was flat, emotionless. Can you explain 6 months of lying, of bringing her into our bed, of using my family, my home like it was your playground?" Jason stammered. "It just happened. I didn't mean for it to. It wasn't supposed to be serious. We just connected over stuff you and I don't." That word, connected, stung, like it was jazz and vinyl records that made betrayal acceptable. "It meant nothing," he added. "I swear, it was meaningless." Emma's laugh came out cold. "If it meant nothing, why did it last 6 months?" He couldn't answer, so she left the room. She didn't slam the door. She didn't scream. She found Lily in the spare room, headphones in, painting. A chaotic splash of red, black, and gold across the canvas. Emma tapped her on the shoulder. Lily turned, startled, then smiled. "Hey, Em, how'd the big pre?" Emma cut her off. "I know." Silence. Lily didn't even look guilty, just annoyed. She pulled her headphones down with a sigh. "Look, I'm sorry, okay? But I love him, and he loves me. Things like this, they just happen." Emma stared, frozen. Lily crossed her arms. "Honestly, he wasn't happy with you anyway. Maybe this is a good thing for you, too. I mean, you're always so perfect, so in control. This shakes things up a bit, right?" Emma didn't slap her. She didn't cry. She didn't beg for understanding. She just walked away. And something inside her, the part that still believed in family, in redemption, in second chances, died in that room. She didn't cry when Jason betrayed her. She didn't cry when Lily called it a good thing. But when she picked up the phone to call her parents, her hands were shaking. Because for a second, just 1 second, Emma believed her pain would finally matter to someone. The phone rang. Twice. 3 times. Then her mother's voice. "Emma, oh honey, what's wrong? You sound shaken." She took a breath and told them everything. Every lie, every email, every message. She expected shock. She expected rage. She expected to hear the words, "How could they?" Instead, silence. Then came pity, but not for her. "Oh, sweetheart," her mother said, "we know this hurts, but maybe this is for the best. Lily's been so lost lately. This might be the stability she needs." Emma blinked. "Mom, they had sex in my bed." Her father spoke up, calm, measured, emotionless. "Emma, I know it's not easy, but feelings fade. Maybe Jason's weren't as strong for you as you thought." She swallowed hard. "So I should just accept it? That my fiancé left me for my sister? That this is somehow my fault?" "No one's blaming you," her mother replied gently, "but you've always been the strong one. You'll land on your feet. Lily, she's fragile." Fragile, that word again, the word they'd used her whole life to explain why Lily always got the best of everything and Emma got the leftovers. Emma didn't scream, didn't beg, didn't try to make them understand, because she finally did. They weren't picking sides. They had always picked. Emma hadn't just lost her fiancé, she had lost the illusion that she ever had a family. Emma didn't scream. She didn't cry into her pillow. She didn't burn his pictures or throw wine glasses at the wall. She just disappeared. Not from the world, but from herself. She moved in with Olivia, her best friend, that same night. Olivia didn't ask for details. She didn't need to. She just opened the door, handed Emma a blanket, and said, "You can stay as long as you need." The guest room smelled like lavender and clean linen, but Emma barely noticed. She didn't eat, didn't sleep through the night, didn't turn on the TV. She lay on the couch most days, curled like a comma, quiet, small, unfinished. The world outside kept spinning. Meetings happened, buses ran, seasons shifted. But inside Emma, everything stood still. It wasn't dramatic, it wasn't cinematic. It was gray, muted, a fog that hung behind her eyes even when she smiled politely at Olivia's concerned glances. Grief, when it lingers, doesn't always roar. Sometimes it settles. It curls into your bones like damp air, and you don't realize you're drowning because it never felt like water. Emma showered. She answered emails. She said, "I'm fine," like she was reading it off a script. But she wasn't living. She was enduring. And in that quiet stretch of days where nothing happened, everything was changing. Emma didn't remember the exact day it started. Maybe it was a Thursday, maybe it rained. All she knew was one morning she opened Olivia's apartment door and found a small plastic container sitting on the welcome mat. Inside, chicken soup, still warm. No note, no explanation, just soup. She stood there for a moment, barefoot, blinking, unsure whether to laugh or cry. It was from Mrs. Rodriguez. She lived 2 doors down, a widow. Always wore lavender perfume and kept plants on her windowsill that never quite bloomed. She had never spoken more than 10 words to Emma, but apparently she'd noticed. The next day it was cornbread, then ginger tea, then a scarf, handmade a little crooked in soft blue yarn. Emma never asked for any of it, but somehow it kept coming. Meanwhile, Olivia never once asked, "When are you going to be okay?" She didn't treat Emma like a guest. She didn't touch the guest room. She never offered it to anyone else. She just let the room wait, quiet, untouched, like it was saving space for someone trying to come back to herself. Emma didn't say thank you out loud. She wasn't ready. But one night she washed the scarf and folded it neatly. She lit a candle in the living room. She spooned the soup into a real bowl, sat down, and ate all of it. That was the first night she slept for more than 4 hours. The first night, the air didn't feel like it was trying to drown her. It didn't fix everything, but it held her, and sometimes that's enough to begin. The office was warm. Not in temperature. Emma couldn't have told you if it was hot or cold, but warm in a way that made her shoulders drop for the first time in weeks. There were plants, books with soft-spined covers, a woven rug that didn't match anything and somehow made everything feel safe. Dr. Kim had kind eyes, and the gentlest voice Emma had ever heard. "You don't have to talk about anything you're not ready to," she said. "We can just sit, or breathe, or start wherever you feel the least afraid." Emma sat in silence for a while, and then, without meaning to, she started talking about Lily, about Jason, about the car she bought at 16 and lost overnight. She told the story like it was a fact, a simple chapter from her past. "I worked all summer for that car," Emma said. "But then my dad took the keys because Lily got embarrassed I came to get her from a party. He said it was only fair." Dr. Kim nodded, then asked, "Emma, do you think that was really fair? Or was it just easier for your parents than dealing with Lily's tantrum?" Emma blinked. The room went still, not because of the silence, but because something cracked open inside her. No one had ever questioned that moment. Not even she had. She had accepted it, absorbed it, folded it neatly into her definition of love and fairness. And now it didn't look like fairness anymore. It looked like convenience, at her expense. Emma didn't answer right away, but something in her posture shifted. For the first time, she sat straighter, breathed deeper. She realized loving yourself doesn't mean betraying your family. Sometimes loving yourself is the first act of true loyalty. She met him in a room full of strangers, yet somehow his silence was the only thing she trusted. It was a Thursday night book discussion at the public library. Emma had only shown up because Olivia had begged her to do one thing this month that wasn't therapy or work. She hadn't expected anything, and certainly not him. Michael didn't speak much that night. He sat across the circle, flipping gently through his copy of The Bell Jar. When he did speak, he said something so simple that it landed like a stone in her chest. "Sometimes," Michael said, "the kindest thing you can do is walk away." Emma froze, not because she disagreed, but because she had never heard anyone say it out loud, not without being called selfish. After the meeting, she found herself walking beside him to the parking lot. They didn't flirt. They didn't swap phone numbers. They talked about nothing and everything, how library coffee was terrible, how grief moves like fog, how some kinds of pain never really leave, but just change shape. He didn't try to fix her, didn't offer advice, didn't ask for explanations. He just listened, and somehow that was louder than anything Jason had ever said. It was simple, quiet, and everything she never knew she needed. Michael didn't take her to a mountain or a fancy rooftop. He proposed in their kitchen while she was making tea and he was folding laundry. No fireworks, just this. "Emma," he said, holding out a small velvet box, "would you let me be your peace?" She didn't cry. She smiled, a real one this time. They were engaged. Two souls choosing each other, not because it was expected, but because it was earned. And for a little while, it felt like a clean page. Until the phone rang. It was her mother, after 2 years of silence. Her voice was syrupy sweet like tea that's been reheated too many times. "Emma, darling, we heard you're getting married. That's wonderful. We'd love to come, as a family, all of us. Maybe it's time to forgive, time to heal." Forgive. The word hung like humidity in the room. Not apologize, not take responsibility, just forgive, like what happened had been a small accident, a bump in the road, not the very thing that broke her into pieces. Emma stared at her phone long after the call ended. This wasn't reconciliation, it was reabsorption. They didn't want to make things right. They wanted her silence back. The dinner wasn't in a restaurant. It was at their old house, her childhood home, the one where silence was currency and guilt was the wallpaper. Emma sat at the far end of the table. Her mother poured wine like nothing had happened. Her father made awkward small talk about retirement. And Lily, dressed like a guest instead of a sister, smiled as if she'd never stolen anything. Then the envelope came. Her father slid it across the table, smooth as a dealer with a marked deck. "This is for you," he said. "It's $20,000. Wedding expenses. We'd just ask one thing in return." Emma stared at the pale blue check inside. $20,000, enough to cover the entire wedding. "Invite Lily. Let her stand beside you as your maid of honor. Let's move on." "As a family?" The room went still. Even the air seemed to stop breathing. Emma looked at the check, then at the 3 people in front of her. Not one apology, not one word of regret. Just a check, a bribe, a test. And Emma? She passed. She didn't cry. She didn't shout. She stood up, slowly placed the check back in the envelope, and pushed it across the table. "You've made your choice," she said. "Now, here's mine." Then she walked out, not from a room, but from a history she didn't belong to anymore. It wasn't the wedding Emma imagined at 16. There was no flower wall, no ballroom, no traditional father-daughter dance. But it was perfect. The venue was a sun-drenched garden tucked behind the city library, quiet, simple, and alive. Emma stood at the top of the aisle in a cream lace gown, her hands gently holding a bouquet of wildflowers, her breath steady. Rows of faces turned toward her, smiling, not because they were supposed to, but because they meant it. Her coworkers, the barista who'd saved her favorite mug when she cried at the cafe, her old roommate from college, the couple upstairs who played jazz and never complained, and Olivia, her best friend, crying like a sister. But it was Eleanor, her elderly neighbor, who took her hand. Eleanor had once left soup at her door when she was too numb to eat. And now she stood proudly in a dusty lavender suit, gripping Emma's arm like she was leading her own daughter down the aisle. "You walk for you now," Eleanor whispered. "Not for them, not anymore." Emma nodded, tears trembling but never falling. And then, step by step, she walked toward Michael, toward love that asked for nothing but honesty, toward a new life made not from what she was given, but from what she chose to keep. The wedding was over. The music faded. The cake had been cut. The stars above blinked in quiet celebration. Emma sat on the edge of the hotel bed, still in her wedding dress. Her heels were off, her hair undone, but her heart felt whole for the first time in years. That's when her phone buzzed. One new message from her mother. "Beautiful wedding photos. Can we talk sometime soon?" No apology, no acknowledgement of pain, no mention of Lily. Just a question, sweet on the surface, sharp underneath. Like so many words Emma had swallowed in that house growing up, she stared at the screen. Years ago, she would have replied instantly, tried to fix it, begged for harmony, sacrificed herself for peace. But tonight, she simply turned the phone face down and smiled. Because true healing doesn't need an audience, and closure isn't always granted. Sometimes it's chosen. She didn't need her mother's permission to be free. She didn't need her family's blessing to be loved. Her wedding ring, glowing under the bedside lamp, was proof. The moment was quiet. Too quiet for someone whose life had been a cacophony of betrayal, loss, and shattered trust. Emma sat on the cold bathroom floor, the sunlight slipping through the window, casting long, soft shadows like gentle hands trying to soothe a restless soul. In her hands was a tiny plastic stick, 2 lines glowing brighter than any hope she had dared to hold in years. A new life growing inside her. She didn't cry. She didn't scream. She simply breathed. A slow, steady rhythm, a heartbeat she could barely believe was hers. In the silence, memories washed over her. The years of walking on eggshells around her family, the weight of being the good daughter who was never quite enough, the crushing realization that love had always come with a price tag. But this child would know a different kind of love. She imagined Sunday mornings filled with laughter instead of tension, bedtime stories told in warm voices instead of whispered warnings, a home where "I'm proud of you" was said without hesitation, and where mistakes were met with understanding, not punishment. Emma pressed her hand gently over her belly, whispered softly to the life inside, "You will be safe here. You will be loved, not because you earn it, but simply because you exist." For the first time in years, the future didn't feel like a storm. It felt like sunlight breaking through clouds. She was ready, not because she had it all figured out, but because she knew with fierce certainty what she would never allow to happen again. This child would not grow up in a house ruled by silence and fear. This child would never doubt her worth. Emma stood slowly, the weight of the moment settling into her bones. She was no longer just a survivor. She was becoming a mother, a protector, a woman rewriting her story. After months of silence, the phone rang again. This time, it wasn't just a call, it was a shipment. Boxes arrived at Emma's door, carefully wrapped gifts. A baby crib, tiny onesies folded with precision, and handwritten notes signed simply, Mom and Dad. No apologies, no acknowledgement of the past, just a curated version of, "We want to be grandparents." The texts followed. "We are so excited for you both. We can't wait to hold our grandchild. Let's start fresh for the baby's sake." Emma looked at the gifts, the messages, and felt the old familiar tug, the pull to forgive, to forget, to rebuild what was broken, but this time she knew better. She typed carefully, firmly, "Thank you for the gifts. If you want to be part of our child's life, there are conditions. Acknowledge the harm caused in writing, attend counseling sessions with us. And no manipulation, no pressure, especially about Lily." Silence. Weeks passed, no reply. Emma smiled softly. For once, her happiness was no longer tied to their approval. Emma sat down to write what might be the most difficult letter of her life. Not an apology, not a plea for forgiveness, but a clear, unyielding statement of what she needed to protect herself and her child. 3 conditions. She typed slowly, every word carrying the weight of years of pain and hard-won wisdom. Acknowledge in writing the specific harm caused, the lies, the betrayal, and the years of emotional manipulation. Agree to attend at least 3 family counseling sessions with me and a therapist I choose to learn to heal and to communicate differently. Never again attempt to manipulate me or pressure me regarding my relationship with Lily. She read the letter once, twice. Her finger hovered over the send button. Then, with steady hands, she clicked. This wasn't just a letter. It was a boundary, a line in the sand. And for the first time, she was drawing it for herself, not for anyone else. Weeks passed. The silence from her parents stretched on, not a single word in response to her letter. At first, it stung, like fresh wounds reopening. The unanswered void whispered doubts. But slowly, something changed. Emma sat in the nursery. Sunlight spilled across the pale yellow walls, casting a soft glow that seemed to wrap around her heart. She traced the outline of a tiny onesie, then lifted her eyes to the empty rocking chair. A smile settled on her lips, quiet, real, unshakable. She wasn't waiting anymore. She wasn't broken. She was whole, stronger than any silence. By choosing herself, Emma shattered the cycle of pain, of sacrifice, of quiet suffering passed down like a family heirloom. And in that moment, she knew her family wasn't just those who shared her blood. It was those who chose to love and respect her, those who held space for her truth. And most of all, it was her. Sometimes the hardest love we must give is the love we show ourselves. Emma's journey reminds us that true healing begins when we set boundaries, when we choose our own peace over the approval of others, even if they are family. Love should never come with conditions that cost you your dignity or your freedom. Remember, you deserve to be respected, cherished, and valued for exactly who you are, not because of what you sacrifice or endure. Breaking free from toxic cycles is not selfish. It's an act of courage and self-respect. And sometimes the greatest act of loyalty is to love yourself enough to walk away. If Emma's story touched your heart and gave you strength, don't keep it to yourself. Subscribe to Whispers of Life for more inspiring real stories that remind us how powerful resilience and self-love can be. Hit the like button, share with someone who needs to hear this, and join our community where your voice matters. Remember, your story matters, your healing matters, and here you are never alone.